Other than that, you had some trouble with Phineas. He was all over the place. But we mentioned the zeal of Phineas, and that's an archetypical moment from the book of Numbers, that Phineas eliminated pollution from the camp in the wilderness. Phineas was a descendant of Aaron, second generation descendant of Aaron. And the book of Numbers says, and the priesthood was accorded to his and his heirs because of his antagonism to marrying non-Jews and bringing outsiders into the camp as such. He was allotted so the priesthood in perpetuity. And I'm not saying this is a pleasant episode. No one says it is. But this was one of the archetypical episodes for the Zealot movement, the zeal of Phineas. So there were people named Phineas at the last time, at the time of the fall of the temple, called a stone cutter, who was elected by the Zealots, which is really symbolic, as the new high priest in place of all the high priests, the corrupt high priests whom they killed. And that's an important point to realize, and there's so much that can be emphasized from a careful reading of Josephus, that, I told you should often group groups together by who their enemies were. Like enemies normally were related groups in some way. And I disagree with Christian, I'm not against Christianity insofar as it doesn't build itself on a denigration of another people. That is, to me, the only, acts between us on that. I mean, and I don't think, as a fair, objective observer, you think it's proper to build yourself on a denigration of another people. And unfortunately, to some extent, that has penetrated into some of the documents. I hope not all, but some. Letter of James, it isn't there, for obvious reasons. But the letters of Paul, yeah, for sure, it runs all through them. Acts, it runs all through it, unfortunately. And it's something we've all had to bear, because this is the dominant culture in the Western world, and it has many beautiful parts to it, no doubt about it. The ideal is something really stirring, extremely attractive. And you all know that. That's why most of you are Christian and claim identity with that ideal. You're attracted by its beauty. Yes, it's some of the highest ideals of Hellenistic civilization incorporated into that persona. From Socrates on down to this Greco-Roman Pax Romanum period. So, of course, that character is, in its mythological sense, we have to discuss its historical sense, is a tremendously winning personality. And as Paul says, I run the race to win, not beating the air. But I think since we've seen the deleterious results of that presentation to some extent, any really good Christian, caring Christian say, I always see ads, I am a Christian carpenter, or something like that. This is a Christian repairman, and so on and so forth, meaning that he's better than others who may not be, etc., because he's not going to cheat you or be honest. Well, if you're really a Christian and honest and not going to so-called cheat anybody, etc., you have to be aware of what has happened with that undercurrent in the materials. And I tell my Christian scholarly friends, you have to do something about it. And none of them are willing to do anything about it. None of them are willing to do anything about it. Because they're afraid the whole edifice will come down. But I don't believe that's true. I think if you that's the beauty of the Jamesian thing. It offers a way of escape from that pernicious part of the heritage that has caused so much pain, suffering, and ultimately Holocaust. You don't want 6 million people on your consciences. Say, I had nothing to do with that. No, maybe you didn't actually chuck people into the gas chambers and and fires and watch 1 million babies burn and stuff like that. But something worked those people up into an absolutely unimaginable frenzy of hatred. And so if the documents that are being circulated have that aspect to them in any part, that has to be excised. Someone has to have the courage to excise that. And I think that I've always said the Messiah himself, if we can discover who he is and so on, and we can pin him down, he would, as I've repeated, expect you to do it. He would not want that on his conscience. The man that we have portrayed here would not accept that. Would not accept that. I'm sure, but I'm preaching now. I'm sure, but I go into any church and I would preach this way. I am sure he would not accept it. Constantine would accept it, Eusebius would accept it, Paul would accept it, but I don't consider any of those people good Christians. That's my apology. Forgive me, I don't mean to hurt your feelings with that. It's tough. I don't have the answer. And you guys are going to live longer than me. It's for you to try the answer. And none of us are strong enough to answer that question, but at least you can talk about it with your friends. That's the best I'm sure you can do. You're not Martin Luther, after all, and he was no perfect person, that's for sure. Yeah.
Would you expand on why Paul was not a good Christian?
I didn't say he wasn't a good Christian as such. The Christianity he defines makes him a good Christian, but I'm saying that, I forget how I put it, but I think I've said enough about Paul. I want to say, but I just did say that he wasn't going to do anything about it. I don't know how wasn't a good Christian. He wasn't Christ-like in the sense he has all these prejudices and limitations and temper tantrums and animosities and he's a very intemperate man with we have him revealed in his letters. He's extremely unchristian. That's all I can say. He doesn't control his emotions. He isn't full of goodwill. He doesn't have charity. Where's the Christianity? He doesn't love his enemies. He doesn't turn the other cheek. So, I don't say anything Christian about him, okay? I'll just leave it at that. I don't know. I think James is a perfect Christian. But now you have to decide that. Eisenman, you like James, so that's why you say he's a perfect Christian. Yeah, I want a righteous person. A person who doesn't suffer from prejudice. And gut level antagonism and stuff like that. Who's not trying to do one-upsmanship and win points and get up on the other person. Anyway, you'd have to read Paul's letters from that perspective, not the all perspective, and I do that in the Christian Origins class, and I'm sure Ron DeBay has done that to some extent also. Never mind. So I'll get back to Jesus here. I don't think what I'm saying is offensive to anybody that we would call Jesus in the slightest. And I wish he were standing right here so he could tell you. I wish we could have him materialize. And I'm sure he would tell you, yeah, that is absolutely right. I don't want those things said and done in my name. I don't want to be responsible for holocausts, even